Hello learners, welcome to the MOOC course on Digital Humanities Theory and Practice. So today we'll be discussing the topic Ethics in Digital Research. In the modern academic and the professional world, research is no longer limited to library, books and a face-to-face interview. Much of the today's research is conducted through the digital platforms such as online databases, social media, artificial intelligence tools, digital archives, and internet-based surveys. While these technologies have made research faster, broader, and more accessible, they have also introduced serious ethical questions. How should researchers collect digital data responsibly? How can privacy be protected? What ethical limits should researchers observe while using online information? These are the questions we will explore in this presentation or in this lecture. By the end of this discussion, we will understand why ethics is not just an optional part of digital research, but an essential foundation for responsible scholarship. Now, to begin with, let us understand what digital research means. Digital research refers to the use of online tools, digital technologies, and internet-based resources for collecting, analyzing, and presenting information. Researchers today use online surveys, e-books, digital repositories, academic databases, social networking sites, and AI-powered software to gather data and conduct studies. However, this digital transformation creates ethical challenges. Just because information is available online does not automatically make it ethically acceptable to use. For example, if someone posts personal thoughts publicly on social media, can a researcher use those posts in a study without consent? This becomes an ethical question. Ethics in digital research therefore ensures the researcher act responsibly, honestly, and respectfully while using digital methods and technologies. So, research ethics are the moral principles that guide how we collect, analyze, report, and publish data without deceiving anyone or harm to the participants. Harm or deception could be the academic theft, or which is also known as plagiarized material produced. Now, digital research is involved, as we discussed, online tools, platform, and data. And it, of course, ensures the responsible and fair research practices. And it is important due to the growth of internet and AI and big data. Now, digital research ethics can be defined as the moral principles and professional standards that guide researchers when they collect, store, analyze, and publish information through digital means. These ethical principles are designed to protect participants, maintain academic honesty, and ensure the research is socially responsible. Now, there are three major pillars of digital ethics. First is respect for participants. Now, this is something which is not just appropriate or not just applicable here, but everywhere and anywhere. So, the first one that we have is respect for the participants, meaning researchers should value human dignity and rights. The second is responsible data handling, which includes secure storage, confidentiality, and proper use of information. And the third one is transparency and honesty, which means being truthful about methods, findings, and limitations. Now, digital ethics applies in many research contexts, including online questionnaires, digital archives, artificial intelligence, social media research, and big data analysis. So, this is how your research ethics were evolved. Let us break down them. It was started in Nuremberg. It was started by Nuremberg Code. The Nuremberg Code is a set of ethical rules for experiments involving human beings. It was created in 1947 after the doctors were put on trial for conducting cruel and non-consensual experiments during World War II. Later on in 1964, Declaration of Helsinki. Medical research is important, but the rights, safety, and the well-being of the people participating in the research must always come before the interest of science or society. As we all know, it was adopted in 1964. Later on in 1979, Belmont Report came into existence. Belmont Report is a document published in 1979 that established three basic ethical principles for research involving human participants. First was treat people with respect, protect them from any harm, and lastly, or the third one is treat everyone fairly. After that, in 2018, we got GDPR, which is the General Data Protection Regulation, which is a privacy law of the European Union that came into effect in 2018, which says that the personal data belongs to you and the organization must handle it responsibly. In 2024, European Union AI Act came into existence. It says that the more risk an AI system poses to people, the stricter the rule it must follow. I repeat, the more risk an AI system poses to people, the stricter the rule it must follow. The law does not treat all AI systems the same. Instead, it uses a risk-based approach. Now, informed consent means that a person agreed to participate in a procedure or a research study only after receiving and understanding all the important information needed to make a decision. So in digital context, we have informed consents. Okay, or consensual things are always taken into consideration where we have the informed consent, which again, as I discussed, that when a person agrees to participate in a procedure or a research study only after receiving and understanding all the information needed to make a decision, or we can say in a very layman's word, we can say, or you can simply tell the participant what will happen, what are the risks, what are the benefits, and let him or her decide freely. So informed consent is not just a signature on a form. It's a process of communication between the professional and the participant or the patient. I repeat, informed consent is not just a signature on a form. It's a process of communication between the professional and the participant or the patient. One of the most important ethical principles in research is informed consent. This means participants should know exactly what they are agreeing to or before they become a part of the study. They should understand the purpose of the research, how their information will be used, whether their identity will remain confidential, and whether they can withdraw from the study at any time. In digital research, obtaining informed consent can be more challenging because data is often collected indirectly. Researchers may use online surveys, website analytics, or social media content without direct communication with participants. This creates ethical complications. To address this, researchers should provide clear consent forms, digital privacy notices, and a straightforward explanation in simple language. Consent should be voluntary, informed, and transparent. Now, if a researcher conducts an online questionnaire through Google Form, the participants should be informed about the purpose of the study. What is going to be the purpose? Because that is something which is the most important. The intent behind that, the estimated completion time, the confidentiality, data storage method, and the contact information of the researcher. Now, privacy and data protection. Privacy and confidentiality are the central to the ethical digital research. Privacy refers to respecting personal boundaries and protecting sensitive information such as names, email addresses, phone numbers, location data, browsing activity, and personal opinions. Confidentiality means ensuring that collected data is not shared or exposed without permission. Now, in digital environment, privacy risks are higher because data can be copied, leaked, hacked, or misused easily. For example, an online survey collecting student opinion may be also capture email IDs or IP addresses, which can reveal their identity. If this information is exposed, it violates the confidentiality. Researcher must therefore anonymize participants' data, removing identifying details, encrypt sensitive files, restrict access to authorized person only. Protecting privacy is an ethical duty. Now, data protection and security. Closely connected to privacy is data connection and or data protection and security. Now, digital data is highly vulnerable to cyber threats such as hacking, malware attacks, unauthorized access, accidental deletion, and the data breaches. Ethical research requires researchers to protect collected information from such risks. This includes using password protected devices, encrypted databases, secure cloud storage, antivirus softwares, and regular backups. Researchers should also avoid using unsecured public Wi-Fi when handling confidential information. And another important aspect is responsible data disposal. So once your work is done, it's not done actually. Data disposal is something which is one of the most important aspect of this whole task. One research is complete. Unnecessary sensitive data should be securely deleted rather than stored indefinitely. Ethical digital research is not only about collecting data responsibly, but also about storing and disposing of it responsibly. Now, intellectual property rights. Now, in digital research, scholars frequently use online journals, digital archives, website, videos, podcasts, and ebooks. This makes intellectual property rights extremely important. Now, intellectual property refers to the ownership of the original ideas, writing, images, and the creative work. So, if I produce anything that has my intellectual, that is known as my intellectual property because I am the owner. So, I should have the ownership of my original ideas, original writings, original images, and any original creative work that I am producing. So, researchers must avoid plagiarism, which means presenting someone else's work as my own or as their own or as your own. Proper citation, referencing, and acknowledgement are essential in academic writing. Referencing and acknowledgement should always be there when you are using somebody else's idea. Otherwise, it will be an academic theft. So, doesn't matter how much you are taking from the other person, as long as you are acknowledging the other person or the original author, original whosoever the idea, whosoever the ideas are or belong to, as long as you are acknowledging them, as long as you are referring them, it's perfectly fine. But one must acknowledge and refer the original author, original writer, original whose ideas are there, right? Even digital images, infographics, or online content should be used with permission or proper credit. Respecting intellectual property supports academic honesty and gives rightful recognition to the creators. Ethical research is based on integrity, originality, and responsible use of resources. Now, researchers must respect ownership rights, which means that they should cite sources properly. They should avoid plagiarism. They should avoid, or they should, oh, sorry, they should obtain permission when necessary. Without obtaining permission, you should never go ahead. Respecting the copyright laws, acknowledging the creator or the original person. Now, for example, copying material from Gestor or Google Scholar without citation is unethical. So, for example, if I'm writing a paper, I refer to I refer to another paper which I got it from Gestor, which I got it from Google Scholar. Unless I'm not acknowledging the author, the original author of that particular research paper, it will always be considered as plagiarized work, and it will be flagged for forever. And there are very strict laws, and there are very strict rule for plagiarized work. So one must always take this plagiarism thing into consideration, and without acknowledging, without referring to the original person, original writer or author, one should never go ahead with the work that you are actually going to produce. Now, ethical use includes quotations with references. All right, so one must have seen, I'm sure many of our learners have seen the in-text citation that a book has, or the paper has, or the novel, or any scholarly work has citations that are there, that are in between the text. So sometimes we witness or we encounter quotations. So those quotations should always be with the proper references. Then paraphrasing with acknowledgement. So it's not simply if you are paraphrasing in your own language, it will not come under plagiarism. Yes, of course, even if you are paraphrasing in your own language, it should always be it will always be considered as a plagiarized work, because of the fact that the ideas do not belong to you. The ideas belong to the original author. Legal reuse of open access content. So, of course, there are so many open access content in the world these days, right? But those open access content, yes, so those open access content or open access, yes, those open access content, they are for our help, not for the copying the stuff that we can simply get the access to those content and we can simply copy them. They are simply there for our help, for facilitating our work, for the supplement. We can use them as a supplement, but the reusing them should always be avoided. Now, these are some of the ethical framework. Like we have principalism, that is another framework, consequentialism, deontology, virtue ethics, feminist or care ethics. And what are they focus on, and what do they focus on? Like principalism, it actually focus on 4 principles, which is autonomy, beneficence, non-maleficence, and the justice. And how do they apply, and what is their application in digital research? IRB reviews medical health and data research. Then we have consequentialism. It focuses on outcome-based ethics, maximize benefit. Then we have deontology. It is simply duty-based. They are the rules applied regardless of the outcome. Then we have virtue ethics, which are simply characters of researchers' integrity. And the application in digital research is simply research to promote the research culture. for the mentoring of the new researchers and the long-term conduct. Like deontology, the application of deontology was absolute prohibition on deception and harm. It has a very strict rules. Virtue ethics, for example, it focuses on the character of the researcher and the integrity. And its again application, of course, is promotion of the research culture, mentoring the new researchers, and long-term conduct. Develop a long-term conduct. And we have, for example, we have another framework that is feminist or care ethics. Now, it focuses on rational accountability and the power structures. And of course, it includes it focuses on relational accountability and the power structures, and it simply the application is it is community based participatory research. It encourages that. Now, these are the legal bodies that actually monitor all such stuff. So here we have, as we earlier discussed, GDPR, which is General Data Protection Regulation, which is started or established by the European Union. As I've already discussed, that GDPR is a privacy law of the European Union that came into effect in 2018, which says that our personal data belongs to you, and organization must handle it responsibly. Then the next one is HIPAA. HIPAA is Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, which is again established in the USA. HIPAA is a US law that sets rule for how hospitals, doctors, insurance companies, and the certain healthcare related organizations handle patients' health information. It believes in the principle like your medical information is private and healthcare organization must protect it. Strict safeguards for health data, and it is safe harbor and expert determination methods for de-identification. The next is European Union AI Act. Now, European Union Artificial Intelligence Act says that the more risk an AI system poses to people, the stricter the rule it must follow. The law does not treat all AI the same. Instead, it uses a risk-based approach. Risk-based framework by AI system used in research. And it is high risk. It has high risk. AI requires confirmed assessment. The next that it is PDPB, which is Personal Data Protection, established in India. Earlier it was known as PDPB. Now it has been renamed as DDPB, which is the original Personal Data Protection Bill was introduced in 2019 but was later withdrawn. Its ideas eventually contributed to the development of the Digital Personal Data Protection Act 2023, which is, of course, as we all know, as DDDP, which is now India's main data protection law. It believes in the principle that the people should have more control over the personal data, and organizational should use that data responsibly. Consent-based processing data, localization provision, research exception with safeguard. Now, there are certain case studies that can be taken as an example for these manipulation or the fabrication that has been done, or some unethical practices that have been done. So we have these case study one that can be taken as an example as the Cambridge Analytica Facebook 2018. Now, Cambridge Analytica was a political consulting company that became the center of a major data privacy scandal in 2018 involving Facebook. The Cambridge Analytica case became one of the most famous examples of how personal data from millions of Facebook users could be collected and used for political profiling without many users' knowledge, which has sparked global debate about privacy consent and data protection. So basically, the millions of people's Facebook data were collected without their clear permission and used for political advertisement and voter profiling. So many people whose data were collected never ever installed the app. Even then, their data was collected. So they never installed the app. They did not know their information was being collected. So this is how your unethical researches can or unethical researchers can go up to. People whose data were collected, they did not consent to their data used for political targeting. Another study, another example of this unethical practices could be the gender shades study, which was done in MIT 2018 again. So the gender shade study showed the some of the facial analysis where AI systems were significantly less accurate for women and people with the darker skin tones, highlighting the importance of fairness, representative data, and bias testing in artificial intelligence. More diverse training data sets, fairness testing in AI systems. Now, greater transparency about AI performances. Now, the thing is, issue was with this gender data study that its commercial face recognition algorithmic showed bias against dark-skinned female. So, which is not only unethical, but it is morally incorrect because of the fact that you are actually promoting racism with these digital unethical practices. So lesson that we learned from there was AI researchers must audit from for demographic biases. Unethical deployment requires diverse training data. So gender shade study helped encouraging in more diverse training data sets, fairness testing in AI system, and it also encouraged the greater transparency about AI performance. As we go back to our first case, which was Cambridge Analytica Facebook, so the again issue was the harvested 87 million people, 87 million plus profiles for political profiling without consent, without taking their consent. Now, the lesson that we learned from there was simply secondary data used for purpose beyond the original consent is an ethical violation. So now this is the ethical checklist that we have, which is data collection must obtain and document informed consent, minimize data collection to the essential, protect identity of participants. Analysis, for its analysis, anonymize or pseudonymize before analysis, avoid unauthorized secondary use, and document all analytical decision. Publications. Now, as far as the publications are concerned, report limitation honestly, attribute all sources correctly, and share data in repository where possible. So to conclude, ethics in digital research is essential for responsible knowledge creation in the digital age. It ensures respect for participants, protection of privacy, and honesty in findings, responsible use of technology, and fairness in the research practice. Now, as digital tool becomes more advanced and ethical responsibilities also become more complex, researcher must balance innovation with human rights, technological progress with accountability, and the access to information with respect for privacy and dignity. Ultimately, a good digital researcher is not only a technologically skilled but also ethically aware, responsible, and socially conscious. With this, we come to an end of our lecture 4. I shall meet you in the next lecture, which is the lecture 5. Till then, I request all my learners to please go through all the slides, to please go through all the lectures again. And if you have question, you can simply contact us. Till then, thank you so much. Have a nice day.